Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 385 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, the Second Amendment podcast. There's a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and tonight we are having an ACP Round Table. And one of the people not on this ACP Round Table is Xander Opal, who clearly did a lot of editing to the intro, and I still did it right. Go me. Also joining me, we have Dodd.
We are Dodd.
Oddball wasn't ready for that one. Hello, Oddball.
No, I was still adding to the show notes.
I see that. And we have David.
Hello.
Yep.
I am here because Erin said I should be here.
Yes. And you know what? Actually, so do we want to just lead off with that one? Just
Sure.
to get it
out of the way.
Get it out of the way. I mean, not only is Erin exhausted and grumpy because it is, as she mentioned in the last show, it soon will be her birthday, and this sort of stuff sucks. But also, she just really just wanted to recuse herself from this story because I
just opened a beer.
Yeah, I don't. I need to remember this is not a mag dump because I want to just say I want to add emphasis to this statement, but
I'll be happy to do that for you.
Oh, please don't. I have to fix it. But
Rizzle snabble fickle fickle diggle
Yes.
bizzle bots.
the that's pretty awesome actually. This one this is coming from Crime Prevention Research Center. That would be John Lott's website. Transgender shooters commit disproportionate shares of mass public and active shooting attacks in 2024 for active shooters, at least 12 times their share in the population.
So what is it? It's like the law of small numbers or something going on here?
Oh,
Yeah.
Could someone look up the actual term for it? I'll explain it while somebody looks it up. But yeah, it is in statistics. People point out that if you are dealing with very, very small numbers, then the statistics, a lot of stuff goes really, really wonky. It's quite similar to do we want to figure out what the average height of people are? And, hey, we're going to figure out the average height of Americans. Hey, look, we got 3 Americans. We've got David, we've got Oddball, and we've got Weer'd. I don't think those numbers are going to come out the way you're supposed to, because there might be some skew within that, within that data set. And then furthermore, I mean, I can't remember when exactly it was, but, there was a spate of spree killings in Finland in the early 2000s, I want to say. And or maybe the early 20 teens, and I noted that I did the math and calculated per population, if Finland had another spree killing in the next 5 years, they would officially have the most spree killings of any nation in the world per capita. Just because, again, the population difference between the United States and Finland is so high, and Finland is a very small country and has happened to have like 2 or 3 mass shootings in the last few years. It skews the numbers horrendously. Another major factor is he's going from, 2018 is his start date with this school shooter that I hadn't even heard of.
So just to interrupt for just a moment, it is referred to as the fallacy of small numbers or the law of small numbers, a cognitive bias where people incorrectly assume that small samples must be representative of the larger population from which they are drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also,
I have a great deal of respect for Dr. Lott, but this is not one of his best works.
As I was explaining to Erin, I referred to this, and I'm going hot on it. This was a Mary Roche moment. For
I
those
don't know that reference.
Yeah, probably not many do because it's like over 20 years old. I don't even know if I'm going to bother throwing a link in the show notes. If you search for it, you can find it. But in the early 2000s, it might even been starting in the late 90s, but I think it was in the early 2000s. A woman named Mary Roche would often come to John Lott's defense in like blog posts and forums. And it turned out that Mary Roach was John Lott. It was just a sock puppet account. And it's one of those like, come on, man, you know better than that.
That's...
And so, yeah, it's one of those like, it's just like, first up, it was just the one sock puppet. It wasn't like he had like a sock puppet army. So he was creating like a false consensus. That would make more sense than that. But
that's just very disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, this was over 20 years ago. And so I'm just saying that John Lott has the occasional lapse in judgment. I am not going to make this skew my overall opinion of John Lott any more than it already has. Like I said, he did a really, really dumb thing in the early 2000s. And this is really, really dumb. Like, and especially like, well, first off, it doesn't, I mean, he has a spreadsheet that you can, an Excel sheet that you can open up on this, but it is like unusable. Like I just looked up the first 2018 number because I'm like, what happened in 2018? Like, I don't remember, any trans shooters going through, and just pointed out that, oh yeah, no, this person was well, first up, this person was, also went by a female name. They were born male. But also this person only killed 2 people, injured a bunch. And so
it wasn't technically a mass shooting?
Depending on how you're switching the goalposts on what a mass shooting, because also the FBI during Biden had the FBI change the number or the criteria a little bit. So it further makes the data really, really dirty. And then, I don't know. I don't want to dig through it.
Biden made things corrupt?
Yeah. I found this graph like was really strange because I was seeing like, oh, like 4 and 1 and all that. I'm like, how are there that many mass shootings? Like he must be using like the gun violence archive numbers where there's been like, 400 mass shootings since, in 2026 by today. But in fact, he's doing a ratio. And so most of them are 1 until 2024, in which it's 0.9. And I'm like, wait, why? I see what you're doing to make the numbers on the, what's the ratio, but it turns out to be 16.4. So I don't even know what the mode for that is. It should just be, there should be one, one whole number and one irrational number if you're doing a ratio, but whatever. But it's one of those.
But this actually reminds me of, are you familiar with the meme about how Finland may or may not exist?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Why don't you go over that though? I'm not familiar enough to recount it, but I have definitely heard.
Okay. I just pulled it up because as we're talking about this, that popped into my head and was like, oh, that is. So the meme goes, there are allegedly around 6.5 million Finns. That's out of 7.125 billion humans. That means Finns make up 0.0912% of the planet. Not 9%, 0.09%. Less than 1%, less than 0.1%. To put that another way, 99.9% of the planet are not Finns. How do we know this? Government censuses. Now, the best government censuses have a margin of error of at least 1%. So Finns make up 0.0912% of the planet, plus or minus 1%. In conclusion, there is a 50-50% chance Finland doesn't exist.
I mean, that is...
I'm not seeing much difference between that and this study.
Correct. And furthermore, again, going on the fact that, like, he went back to 2018 for, and like I said, maybe there was multiple, but again, both the 4.5 to 1 is probably implies that, there was, I don't even know, but essentially there was a small number of people that identified as trans that were quote unquote mass shooters according to
this. I'm sorry to interrupt again. This is one of my other major pet peeves about this. So, little perspective on this for me is, of the group of us, I probably come closest to understanding what Erin is dealing with because I've grown up with Jews being blamed for everything. And we're a tiny portion of the population of the world, much less any given country. And yet we are held responsible for all sorts of horrible things and almost no good things. So one of the things that happens historically with these events regarding Jews is, well, this person, his grandfather was Jewish, but he was raised Roman Catholic and didn't know he was Jewish until he was an adult, but he's still a Jew, so this thing can be laid at the feet of the Jews, right? We've all heard variations on that. Mm-hmm. The number of damaged people who either through external pressure or through an attempt to fix whatever is wrong with them drift into the trans orbit or are simply trans tourists or trans cosplayers, or there was another term that someone used that I thought was very good, but of course I can't remember it. But they don't have dysphoria. They're just very damaged people who have latched on to, quote unquote, the cool thing. And considering them at the same level as someone like Erin is horrifically insulting.
Yep. And, I mean, you even have people like, I mean, again, the reference back that podcast that I talked about that was analyzing the Nashville shooter's diary. But this person, and I'll just use general neutral terms because honestly speaking, I think it's appropriate, whether they identified to or not. This person routinely said in their diary that they were autistic and and all that. And their parents, they were well known to be struggling with mental illnesses, and their parents were actually being quite attentive and made sure that they were getting mental health screening and assistance. And they were on multiple occasions diagnosed as not being on the spectrum or cleared of being.
They had other damage, but that wasn't
correct. They were tested for they were given tests to see if they were on the spectrum, and they were not. They were shown to not be on the spectrum, but they repeatedly stated that they were autistic, and of course unlike autism, we don't really have a test for if you are really trans. And I don't want to, get too deep into this.
It's
listeners
the honor
who are and know that they are trans are like, yeah, screw you, Weer'd. I know I'm not. But that's the point that I'm trying to make. And that also gets into is, again, this study starts in 2018. I mean, it's one of those, like, before that, the number was effectively zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a big,
honestly, before that, the number in the general population of any sample was effectively zero. For trans. They would be called cross-dressers or simply gay.
Yep. No, that's another big thing. We see this with some of the stuff that RFK talks about with, like, say, autism, and specifically autism and vaccines is one of those, like, we have different statistics for determining people who are on the spectrum now versus back then. And we treat people who are on the spectrum differently now versus then. I point out that what Rain Man came out, what was it, 1986, 1987?
And that was the impression of someone with autism.
Yep.
At a high functioning level.
Yep. And he was expressly stated that he was autistic and he was institutionalized. He was non-functional. He was not able to care for himself. He needed supervision, and that was going through. And then fast forward, I think it was like 27. It was like, it was pretty much on the dot. I think it was, what was that? 30 years later. You have the first season of The Big Bang Theory comes out, where at no point they even openly say, no, we're not saying that, that Dr.
Sheldon's-
Sheldon Cooper is autistic.
Jim Parsons did.
Yeah, but everybody else.
The writer said no.
Yeah.
The director said no. Jim Parsons said yes.
Including people with autism have said, no, we understand that.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden the autistic main character is a college professor, very, very successful, very, very brilliant. He's got roommates, but he's living on his own. It's not only has the medical community changed, but the culture has changed. And I think that is a bigger factor. Again, we have also the shooter in Rhode Island, that is referenced. And it's one of those, this person had a massive SS tattoo on their shoulder, and in goddamn every picture of this person, they are blading that shoulder towards the camera. Make sure you get my good side. Yeah. And it's one of those that
doesn't make them trans. That makes them an damaged person.
Yep. But also,
I caught myself, Weird. I saved you editing.
You did a beautiful job, because everyone also knows what you were thinking. So perfectly done. But
it's also, you were saying about how the impression of autism changed over the years, and that reminded me of another meme, which was there weren't autistic folks back in the day. Oh, sure, your grandfather who info dumped about postage stamps and ate the exact same lunch every day of his life was the epitome of normal.
Yep.
Well, and part of that is before 2013, there was an official diagnosis of Asperger's, which in 2013 they went, oh, no. Those people are actually very high level functioning.
They're on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that was when I first heard about the spectrum, was when they gobbled up Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, and I know a few people that were officially diagnosed with Asperger's, and yeah.
and to dip into the cultural thing, there is, there is a lot of speculation at whether or not Cary Grant was gay. And I specifically single out Cary Grant because nobody knows, and unless we get like a time machine, nobody is going to know.
Or we find some letters in his hand.
Yeah, he
or something
is
like that,
and that's never going to happen at this point in time.
No.
But he has passed away. As far as I know, all the men that are purported to be his lovers have all passed away. It is lost to time, and.
Yep.
And
that was something that was said about a lot of male movie stars back in the day, because they would share lodgings.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if two men are sharing lodgings, obviously they're gay.
Yep.
And they're actors, they must be gay.
But also the point is that
two or more actresses sharing lodgings, well, they're just sharing expenses.
Yeah. Even if they were
double standard.
Even if they weren't, it wasn't talked about. And like another great example was Richard Pryor was very open about being bisexual. And I tell people about this, like it's one of those actually. So supposedly
no, he wasn't.
He and Marlon Brando actually had a sexual relationship for a brief period of time. And Marlon Brando was also very, very open about being bisexual. There are many interviews where Marlon Brando is asked about, are you a homosexual? And he does not deny it. And I think it's one of those, you've also got the side of the time, the term bisexual really didn't exist. It was one of those, Marlon Brando.
No, they had to wait longer to be discouraged by the LG community.
Yes. But yeah. But it's one of those, they both in their time being alive talked about it quite openly, but society did not want to hear it, and it was not talked about, and it was really kind of swept under the rug. But you do a little bit of digging, and there it is.
You can find the interview transcripts or recordings,
and you can find even Richard Pryor's children saying, "Oh yeah, no, we knew Dad had boyfriends. He had girlfriends, he had boyfriends. He did both things, and he was not ashamed of it." But it's just one of those, at the time that Richard Pryor was alive, this was not something that people were comfortable with. And so society changes and things go through. And so it's one of those, this is an absolute mess. It is not only is it extremely small numbers trying to analyze spree shooters. It's not great when anti-gun
trying to analyze spree shooters is extremely small numbers.
Yep.
And then trying to analyze even unrelated to the trans community. But then you talk about people who are trans. I mean, he says right there, assuming 0.73% of adults are trans. That is the definition of very small numbers.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is in itself a very, very small number set, and it is a very, very dirty number set in the fact that we're dealing with a lot of self-reporting, and you are dealing with a lot of additional factors in this. You know, we're not talking about autistic shooters. And then again, was the Nashville shooter autistic? They kept saying that they were. Their doctors kept saying that they weren't. How do we count it? And
and at least with autism, there are at least now certain diagnostic tools available.
But also there's not a political agenda.
Is a precise science either.
Yeah, there's not a political agenda attached to it anyway, so nobody cares.
No.
And so
So like I said, I have a great deal of respect for Dr. Lott, and this was very disappointing from him.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think can we move on?
Yes.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah. No, I don't. I do not either. So let's talk about a much more uplifting topic.
Yeah.
A spree killing.
And just to clarify for our listeners, I'm not autistic. I'm Jewish. They're very similar, but we don't like trains.
Oh, only you could get away with that, David.
Yes.
So yeah,
a little bit of levity before the next story.
Yes. So yeah. So last week, this happened. This actually happened the day of the recording that we did last week, and it was just way too early. I just didn't even want to touch on it. I'd heard about it, but it was too much. But yeah, a man went into a bar in Austin, Texas, and shot a bunch of people.
Actually, you're a little early in your timeline there.
Okay.
According to the article, he drove past the bar, shot out of his vehicle.
Yeah, that's true.
And then pulled up in front of the bar, got out, fired some more shots, and then went across the street to a different building where the police... I mean, you cannot fault the police response time in this one. It was like under a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just such a bizarre thing. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to clarify the timeline.
Please do. And so yeah, this shooter was an immigrant from Senegal. It may or may not have ties to the war in Middle East.
Police may never know his motivation.
Yeah. So speaking of politics tied to things. But yeah.
What do we suspect his motivation was?
Yeah. I'll just leave that. I think everybody knows what we're thinking.
Well, I mean, he was wearing clothes with an Iranian flag design and the words "property of Allah."
I mean, that is true. I'd actually forgotten about the shirt.
So that's a clue.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hint. But I'm just gonna. Sorry, go ahead, Oddball.
According to the AP News, both the FBI and police in Austin said that it's too soon to identify the motive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm gonna just not touch that and instead praise the police for their extremely rapid response and extremely effective response. Like it said in the article, less than a minute when the first shot to dropping him.
And I will also say that while I am not at all requesting or condoning the execution of spree killers on the site, I we have recovered enough of them alive. For the longest time, spree killers always ended up killing themselves before the as soon as they started getting police engagement, and then we started. Then some of us started either surrendering or being captured alive, and I was thinking, oh, this is good. We can actually start getting a glimpse inside their head. Maybe get some of their testimony on why they were doing what they were doing. I like to know why they chose what they were doing, so that we can put up barriers. We can counteract against these tactics. And
we can learn from this.
Yeah. And almost all of them essentially are ruled insane and are committed to mental institutions and never actually have trial.
So I'm going to agree. I don't think I would want just executions on the side of the road.
Oh, yeah.
But could we bring back the stocks for them?
I mean, that's certainly
in public ridicule. Because a number of these people have said that the notoriety and fame that earlier mass shooters got basically encouraged them to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Though I would
if
argue,
we make them an object of ridicule, would that be a worthwhile experiment to see if it lessens the results?
I mean, it potentially, but I think also it's very similar to people who cut themselves. To feel anything, even if it's bad, is better than feeling nothing.
I suppose.
And
it does remind me of an article that I read a few years ago when there was a spate of, depending on whose definition, mass shootings. And the article was about notice how there are no serial killers anymore. Mm-hmm. And the article dug into the data, including using some FBI crime data. And no, there are still the same about the same number of serial killers. They just don't get the news anymore.
Yeah, no, I'm a big buff on true crime, and there's a few podcasts that I listen to that are really, really good about covering true crime. And there are serial killers. Now they're not as big numbers as some of the serial killers from like the 60s and 70s
back in my day,
but just because we've got so much surveillance and DNA evidence and all of these new police
tools
make it so much harder to. They're serial killers, but they may only have 3 or 4 kills as opposed to double digits like some of the more prolific ones, and may not go decades being unnoticed, though there still are some unsolved ones and some, or even some potentials that are unsolved. There's some bodies that have showed up in various places in New England, that some people suspect may be a serial killer, though they may be also unrelated deaths. But yeah, no, serial killers still exist. They're just not talking about them all the time. And that is absolutely something that we need to do. And the news is actually getting a lot better about glorifying spree killers.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have. I think I'm not sure whether you call it the high point or the low point, honestly, but the one of the extremes was after the Boston Marathon bombing. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was Rolling Stone. Had that photo of one of the brothers on their cover.
The living
who
one,
looked like a rock star.
Yeah, the one that is still in federal prison.
Yep, and is still getting marriage proposals, apparently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somebody brought him up the other day, so I looked to see what was going on. And yeah, he's still in prison. He's never going to see the sky except through bars. But there are still women who think they can fix him.
Yep.
Or maybe don't want to.
But thinking of stuff that we can fix, Virginia.
Oh, God. So this is particularly chilling for me because my wife and I were considering the Richmond area of Virginia or the Knoxville area of Tennessee when we moved out of New York. And we clearly made the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
Does someone want to start this story off?
Yeah. So, as everyone knows, Virginia recently had their gubernatorial elections, and the pro-gun immigrant black woman was beaten by the communist former CIA operative white woman, and that was a whole mess of all the people who for decades had been saying we need to support black women in politics suddenly were nowhere to be seen when Sears?
Sears. Yep.
Yeah. When she started running, suddenly they wanted nothing to do with a black woman in politics. Shameful. Absolutely shameful. But the new governor, whose name I'm not going to bother mentioning, ran on making things more affordable and reducing the burden on regular Virginians. And there was very little mention of gun control in her campaign. And basically, as soon as the election was over and she was sworn in, she started, and the legislature, I should say, the legislature started sending gun control bills through and sending them to her desk, and she was signing them. And one of the things, there's a massive new assault weapons ban, which part of, I don't know if it's part of that assault weapons ban or if there's a separate one, which would make it illegal to transport a quote unquote assault weapon in the state of Virginia. Mm-hmm. So you can own it. You cannot take it out of your house, not even to sell it.
Correct.
Yep. And the big, that's a big thing that's happening with a lot of these new assault weapons bans, both in the in the United States and in Canada, is that they are adding a grandfather clause, but part of the law is that the transfer of these firearms is expressly illegal. So, so no longer are you doing the, okay, look, somebody, here I'm in Massachusetts and there's still some pre-ban AR-15s kicking around that, that have bayonet lugs and collapsible stocks and there's 30 round magazines and all of that, and I'm pretty sure they're still legal to own, though the laws changed just recently. But a lot of these new places, no, you can keep owning it. No one's coming for your guns, but
not yours.
But but specifically yours, and your gun dies with you, and your family will have a choice of either, in the case of state laws, get it out of the state. So, find somebody in another state to sell it, which, especially in states that have had previous assault weapons ban, a ban compliant gun does not move very well on the open market.
No, I mean, depending on what has to be done to it, especially.
Mm-hmm. And then
we were talking about I think it was the Magnum, we were talking about James Earl Jones's 7.92 Kurz AR. Mm-hmm. And it was a manual operation rifle. The barrel didn't have a gas port drilled in it. There was no gas tube because he lived in New York.
Yep.
So, how much, other than the fact that it belonged to James Earl Jones, who's going to want that? It's just a parts collection at that point that you can make into something usable.
But also, if you're if this ends up getting passed and ends up surviving Supreme Court challenge, both for both of those to happen is a pretty uphill battle. If you're
it's going to get passed. Yeah. In fact, I think several of them have already been signed into law. I don't know if the assault weapon ban has yet.
But the bottom
some
line
of the others I read, and the Supreme Court would have to take a case to overrule it.
I mean, I tell people when I was 13 years old when the 94 assault weapons ban passed.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, and then by the time I turned, and then it was by the time it was 2024 came around, or 2004 came around, I was living in Massachusetts, so I've never been 18 years old and living in a place where you could just buy an AR-15 off the shelf.
Yeah, I was before, in 94 I bought, actually I didn't like the AR-15 platform, so I bought a Mini 14. And they were about the same price. The AR was a little bit more expensive, but not significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a Mini 14 anymore, but I got a bunch of ARs. So obviously something changed. But I was living in New York. So when 2004 came around, we were 4 years into the New York State assault weapons ban, mirror of the federal ban. So when the federal ban expired, the state ban was still there. So I only had a few years. And to this day, I will see on Gunbroker or one of the other sites is a pre-ban AR go up, or a New York ban or a California ban compliant AR go up. The pre-bans get some interest because they're historical. You know, they're older guns. Some of the pre-bans are CNR. But yeah, there's really very little interest in a ban compliant AR, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I suppose if the choice is get something for it or turn it into the government for destruction, getting something would be better.
Yep. And yeah. And also, this also adds in that they're buying a bunch of guns. So therefore, whatever gets banned is still in common use, whether it be in Virginia or in the nation as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So it adds more fuel for
that was the other part of this article.
Yeah.
That, where was that? Virginia's background checks were more than 23,000 higher in February than they were a year ago, an increase of more than 55%, which followed a nearly 26% increase last month. And I thought I saw, it might have been a different article, but I thought I saw something that the gun sales in Virginia for one of those periods was the third highest in the country, just after Florida and Texas, with a fraction of the population of either state. Yeah, I think it was a different article. But it was just, if they'd only had, here it is, right at the top. Virginia surged to 5th place with over 65,000 sales-related checks and landed just behind Texas and Florida, with 14,230 checks related to highly regulated NFA items, despite having the 12th largest population. So that was, as Democrats moved dozens of gun bills through the legislature, dozens. But that was, so February sales for Virginia, 5th place right behind Texas and Florida. I'm guessing California would be 1st place just because of the population. I wonder who 2nd place was. Information missing from the article.
Yep.
But if they had had that kind of enthusiasm during the election and on election day, they may not be in the boat they're in right now. That was something I saw in New York repeatedly.
Not all of them will learn, but hopefully some will.
Yeah. I mean, as a Massachusetts resident and a member of your state pro-gun organization and 2A organization, I'm sure you see the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, and you've also got the issue with Massachusetts more, just like that previous interview that I had with Brendan, talking about the fact that it's a blue state. And I note many, many times, there's nothing partisan about the Second Amendment. If you are a deep, deep blue hardcore Democrat, there is no reason for you not to support the Second Amendment. I can give you many, many, many reasons on why, and things that are very important to you, that your ability to keep and bear arms is extremely important. But the problem is, because of the partisan nature and the fact that I have to say that in this climate, most of the pro-gun organizations tend to lean quite right-wing, which is self-defeating.
Disappointing. Yeah, it really should be the big tent.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care what your other politics are as long as you support the Second Amendment.
Yeah, and sadly, a lot of the groups that are coming up that are saying that, oh yes, we're the Second Amendment is for everybody. It's no, you're the Second Amendment group for the far left wing.
Yeah. Second Amendment's for everyone, but not you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From one side or the other. It's very frustrating.
Well, let's switch to some good news.
And
this is news that very much excites me. It's not there yet. I wish,
right?
But we are close. Is that DC's highest court strikes down ammo magazine ban? So this is the DC Court of Appeals, which is essentially the Supreme Court of the district. It's like the state Supreme Court
except in New York, it's like the appellate court.
Yeah,
because New York.
But yes,
I know that annoys Oddball so much.
Words mean things.
But of course the District of Columbia had a ban on magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, like many anti-gun states do, and the court has ruled that that arbitrary restriction is in fact a direct violation of the Second Amendment, both under DC versus Heller, but also under Bruin.
Under what?
NYSERPA, pardon me.
Or NYSERPA v. Bruin.
NYSERPA v. Bruin. True. Put the winner's name goes first.
It should.
And so
Kostas Moros disagrees with me on that.
Does he?
He says it's too late. He says it's Bruin. It's too late to change.
I
disagree. As Oddball said, words have meaning.
Yes.
Well, and also there's the legit issue of, I'm sure there are other legal cases that involve Bruin, considering.
Yeah. And there's also the legitimate concern that there are other legal cases that involve NYSERPA.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's been multiple cases filed by Dick Heller.
Yep. Actually, I think there is currently, is Bruin out now? I think there was a NYSERPA v. Bruin 2, but I think it got changed to NYSERPA v. whoever replaced Bruin.
Okay. But
for a while there was a ongoing NYSERPA v. Bruin and a one NYSERPA v. Bruin.
So
but anyway,
yeah.
But this is definitely very exciting.
Yeah, I don't think the district can appeal this, can they?
Now that is, unfortunately, things have been apparently reported in a slightly deceiving way, because according to the Firearms Policy Coalition Twitter page, as of today, DC has asked the DC Court of Appeals to suspend the presidential status of the opinion striking down the district's magazine ban, saying the decision has created uncertainty and chaos, and it plans to file an en banc petition. So, and I'll throw that into.
What does that mean in real words?
So that means that that DC has petitioned the court to put a pause on the decision actually going into effect, because they plan to appeal it to an en banc session, which would make me believe that this is the first round of Court of Appeals.
Okay. Yeah, because I looked at the legal document, District of Columbia Court of Appeals, that FPC had up on their page, and it says, any response to the district's emergency motion shall be filed no later than March 13th. Any reply, blah, blah, blah. So that is, the emergency motion is the one not to apply. Wait, let me try that in English. The March 13th date is in response to the DC requesting that the magazine ban not be removed. I'm confusing myself now.
Yeah. So
that last paragraph.
DC has until the 13th to file for their appeal.
Okay.
Which, and today we are recording this on the 9th.
Until this Friday.
And let's hear this. The first bit was filed on the 6th. The second bit, yeah. The second bit was also filed on the 6th, which was Friday. Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, last Friday. So DC has until Friday the 13th to file this. Hopefully, it brings them bad luck.
Yeah. And if they do successfully file for the appeal to the en banc court, and the court takes them up, I honestly, I hate to say it, but I agree with the city of of DC that the order should be suspended until it's actually sorted out. Just because, as much fun as Freedom Weeks are, yeah, that does in fact cause a bunch of confusion and chaos. And the whole, well, yes, it's legal if you bought it in this week or these 2 weeks, makes things extremely messy.
Government is the problem.
I mean, yeah, I'd love to see the appellate, the en banc, the petition for en banc hearing be denied and said, no, the appellate court got it right.
We said what we said.
Of course, I'd also really like it if, SCOTUS would actually say, what part of shall not be infringed did you misunderstand? Mm-hmm. And we told you guys in NYSERPA v. Bruin, these are the rules, and you guys are going directly against these rules. In many cases, openly stating, yes, we know we're going against these rules. We don't care.
Yeah, it's similar to was it Stalin who's reportedly said, how many divisions does the Pope have?
Or Andrew Jackson. The Supreme Court has made their decision. Now let's see them enforce it.
Yeah, that was the other one I was going to mention. But yeah, I
think the actual quote, he was directing that to whoever was the head of the Supreme Court at the time. But
yeah, but it's just, what point is there to the Supreme Court if they make rulings and states can ignore them with impunity?
And the federal judges under them are straight up ignoring them.
Mm-hmm. And there's no consequences.
Yeah.
I mean, so the federal judges, that's under the executive branch, or is that still judicial?
They're judges. They're under the judicial branch.
Yes, I know, but there are some judges that are appointed by the executive, other than Supreme Court. Because there's always stories, every election is followed by, well, the president fired all these judges.
No, the president doesn't have the power to fire a judge.
Well, that's what I get for believing a headline.
Now, the president has the power to nominate new federal judges for, and then Congress.
The whole advise and consent part?
Yeah.
But that's only if a vacancy comes up through the normal course of events.
Right. Yeah. The only way to get rid of a federal judge is Congress can impeach them. But I think that's happened like twice in the history of the United States.
Right. Yeah, so they can be impeached, they can retire, they can die, and that's about it.
That's about it. I really wish there was a mechanism that, oh, hey, if SCOTUS actually votes unanimously against your decision, something should happen to you.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I kind of vacillate back and forth between, if SCOTUS finds 9-0 that a law is unconstitutional, then there should be some penalty for everyone who voted for that law. But I understand how that could be weaponized too easily.
Yeah, and there's been cases there's been cases of cases that, oh yeah, SCOTUS voted 9-0 against this law, and this law was enacted 50 years ago.
Right. Yeah, that's the other part of the problem.
But if a case goes through the system and SCOTUS unanimously says, no, the lower courts got this wrong, SCOTUS should have some mechanism of, not only did they get this wrong, but we're punishing the lower court for being stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. But it may be an imperfect system, but it's the system we got.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And sorry, I looked it up. There have been 15 judges removed, federal judges removed from the bench.
For in the history of the United States at every level.
Oh, sorry. 15 judges have been impeached by the House of Representatives since 1803. Of those 15, 8 of them were convicted and removed by the office by the Senate, or from the office by the Senate. So 8 have actually been impeached and removed from the bench.
So optimistically, that's over half.
Right?
I understand that it is a big thing to bring articles of impeachment against a judge, and I'm sure there's often political motivation behind it, not just legislative or jurisprudence or whatever.
Well, and it should be something that is done very sparingly, because technically, Congress impeaching and removing federal judges would be one branch holding power over another, which
right. But I don't know where that authority is. That in the Constitution, or was that something that was added later through legislation?
I want to say that was something that was put in through legislation, but
okay. So
I honestly don't know.
So if that is the case, if what you remember is correct, then that would be the legislative branch usurping some of the authority of the judicial.
And it's one of those things that, and as I stated, this was since 1803, so that was still very much put in place while while a good chunk of the founders were still around. And there's there's a lot about the government, including the government at founding, that isn't in the Constitution, because the Constitution was supposed to is just the framework.
Oh, according to this, federal judges of the United States can be removed from office only through impeachment by the House of Representatives and conviction by a 2/3 vote in the Senate, as mandated by the U.S. Constitution. Okay, but it doesn't specify where in the Constitution. Usually these articles will mention, section this, part that.
Right, yeah.
Okay, wait. This is judicial impeachments.
I think we can move on from this one, though. I think we're getting deep into the
weeds. Getting awful weedy.
Yeah. And I want to talk about this next story. There's not really a ton to say on this. It's just, it's speaking of legal battles, this is kind of on the same vein, but so the Attorney General of the state of Florida is essentially taking action and moving against the state attorney, Melissa Nelson, who is also a Republican, for deciding not to prosecute the city of Jacksonville because a city employee actually kept a registry of gun owners who were entering and leaving City Hall for what she thought was security reasons.
Established a registry for concealed carry licensees who visited City Hall.
Yeah, and so that was an illegal registry of gun owners, and I would argue an invasion of privacy as well. And all that, and so they're trying to sort this out, because of course it was looking away, and I think this is also just good because, again, when you look the other way, we talked about the Supreme Court. What's the point of having a Supreme Court if nobody enforces the laws? What's the point of having a rule against gun registries if we don't sue someone who actually starts creating a registry? Yeah, and
the AG Youthmeyer, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Apologies if I got that wrong. The employee didn't need to knowingly and willfully violate the statute forbidding governments from making lists of gun owners. He only had to knowingly and willfully create the list, which is where his comment that ignorance of the law is no excuse comes into play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there is a state law that says you can't make a list of gun owners, and this guy made a gun owner as a state employee, that seems pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a legal guy, so maybe it's not as clear as I think.
I think it's just I think it's just good. It's another good angle to see where things are going.
Yeah, and I mean, props to the Florida AG for bringing this up and making a fuss that this guy actually did break the law and there needs to be consequences. So this is something that I'm guessing Erin is keeping a little closer eye on since it's local.
Yep. And Erin sent me this one. Like, you definitely want to cover this one.
Yep.
This next one, I'm only going to touch on briefly, just because it's a subject matter that we've covered very much. But
just wash your hands after you're done touching it.
Yes, of course, had Casey Harrington on the show from Koa Athletics, and when we were doing the interviews that we did, she mentioned that she was working on a blog post on lead exposure, and of course she's very interested in forever chemicals and toxins and things like that. And I actually gave her your segment on the episode that you had with your segment on lead exposure. I'm like, go check out his links and all that. So, because you did an excellent job, David, and that's also why.
Thank you.
We don't need to dive more deep into this, but again, if you are someone who is concerned,
what episode was that?
Now
you remember?
I'll have to go back and dig up the email. And
I should probably go in the show notes.
I'm not going to do that while we're recording, but I can find it.
No, don't.
There's a search bar on assortedcalibers.com. But yeah, so but she had this post. It's excellent. It's another great little just essentially just hit on how to lower your lead exposure. Looks like she did some firsthand tests with lead tests, and
nice.
Yeah, as a mom who is currently pregnant, at least at the time of this recording, though maybe by the time you guys are listening, she may have her next child. She is knocking on the door right now. When
she and I were emailing back and forth to try to get you two connected, she was telling me about that. She wanted to get this done before a baby came along.
Yep. So
it's like, yeah, growing a person is involved, but once that person is free range, that's a whole other level of involved.
And the sleep deprivation. Oh my God. Like, it's
but you should be used to that by now.
My daughter is going through the throes of the teenage years, and she is reminding of me when I was a teenager, and it was like, oh my God, I was out of my mind when I was a teenager. Some of the stuff that I thought and said and did just was what were you thinking? And same thing goes from when my daughter was very, very small and was waking me up around the clock, and that much sleep deprivation. It's like being on hard drugs.
Didn't Mythbusters do an episode on comparing intoxication and sleep deprivation?
I mean,
yes.
I mean, I know that it's a pretty standard. It's a pretty standard. Department of Transportation thing as well.
Yeah, I just remembered thought I remembered, and Oddball confirmed that there was a Mythbusters episode on it.
Yeah, and by the way, David, once again, thank you for. I can't remember the brand, but you were wise enough to bring a tube of. Do you remember the brand of the
Tactical Grit?
Tactical Grit.
Oh yeah.
That lives in my range bag 24/7.
And it or something like it. I think there's a couple companies that make similar. It is something that needs to live in folks' range bags, especially if you're the type that whose range is in the back of someone's yard or farm or something.
Yeah, if there is no running water, you need to have some Tactical Grit. I haven't tried the other versions of it, but the hand cleaners with pumice I actually don't like, because the pumice particles are large enough they don't break down, and I always get some caught under my ring. Tactical Grit, it doesn't. It's small enough and fine enough, and it breaks down quickly enough that I don't get any of that gritty feeling under the ring. So I'm a fan.
Yeah. All right, Oddball. We've been going for a while, but the knife rights are our Second Amendment rights.
Yes, they are.
So anybody who's listened to me on this show long enough, you've heard me talk about knife rights many times. and they continue to have news on and in this particular case, a case that hasn't gotten a whole lot of airplay, which is they are going after the Federal Switchblade Act, which bans cross-state transport and sale of switchblades and gravity knives, which I can already hear Weer'd going, but wait, you can go into... In fact, we went into a store together and bought switchblades.
I own 3 automatic knives. None of them I bought in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah,
and also,
so does that mean Weer'd violated the law?
Furthermore, I own dozens of assisted opening knives that I have. I don't think I bought any of those in Massachusetts either.
Yeah. Which I really need to do a segment when I can sit down and try not to get alcohol poisoning when doing the necessary research and writing about this law. But the short of it is, yes, there's a law on the books saying that it's a federal crime to sell switchblades. No, it hasn't been actually enforced in over a decade now. Maybe longer than that. But it is still on the books. It still could be enforced. Just the Fed has said, yeah, we're not enforcing it. Except for on Spyderco, but that's time for another segment.
Yes, please, because I am now curious.
Yeah, definitely yes, please.
So Knife Rights found a gentleman that is a Native American and moved to a reservation where, again, the law is, specifically says, yes, it is straight up illegal to possess an automatic knife on Native American reservations.
So this is a tribal land thing.
So, and that part is actually still enforced, apparently. So Knife Rights has tried to sue a couple times to get this law off the books. And like I said, one of the times it was just simply the court said, well, the federal government is saying that they have no intention on actually enforcing it, so you have no standing. And in this case, the district court said, oh, well, yes, knives are arms and therefore protected under the Second Amendment, and automatic knives are knives and therefore arms and protected under the Second Amendment. So this ban shouldn't be allowed. But and the showman is shown since he moved to a reservation, he was required to get rid of his switchblades because it would be illegal for him to have them on the reservation, but he has no standing.
Even though he was harmed by the law,
yes.
He has no standing.
Yes.
That's not how I understood standing to work.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But
Okay.
So for those of you out there that are like me and frustrated, shall we say, with some of the backflips and gymnastics that judges do about guns, don't worry. They do it about knives as well. So Knife Rights has appealed, and they are going to get a and that appeal has been taken up by the appellate court, I believe in the 5th district, and oral arguments for that will be held on April 1st. Insert joke here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I already did the Friday the 13th joke, so I think I've met my quota.
Yeah. And may I add that Oddball, you definitely got me going, and actually you really helped me think about automatic knives a little bit differently, because I really just handled them as folding knives that opened in a neat way. but you made a great point saying that an out the front double action knife like my Microtech is one of the safest knives out there to use. And you're absolutely correct in the fact that, and I've started using that way, which is, if I'm going to be cutting up a box, I will open my knife and start cutting the box. And then when I get to a point where I'm going to rip it or need to manipulate it or fold it, I hit the switch and retract the blade. And then I'm working with a closed blade in my hand and all that. Essentially I think about it like a lightsaber, in the fact that, when you're not actively, fighting a dark Jedi, you put the blade of the lightsaber away because you don't want to hurt yourself. And the pommel of the handle of a lightsaber is not going to hurt anybody. The handle of a switchblade is not going to hurt anybody. And so the idea that they're too concealable.
It depends on how hard you throw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They're.
I mean, you give somebody a good whack with the closed pocket scimitar, they're gonna know about it.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna bite you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the blade that's the blade that's closed is, yes, more concealable than, I guess, a fixed blade, though the fixed blade is much faster, but also so is your manually operated pocket knife. These laws are dumb. These laws are super duper dumb, and there needs to be more. By legalizing it, there'll be better access to affordable out the front blades for people, because, oh my God, everyone should have one. It's the best pocket knife.
Yeah, it's similar to there's still areas where folding knives with locking mechanisms are illegal, and it's just you're seriously banning a safety device.
Yep.
Firearms with handguns with a thumb safety are illegal. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah. I mean, basically.
Or, I mean, I think California for a while was mandating a magazine disconnect, of which I will state is a safety device that makes the gun more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever had to work on a Ruger Mark III?
No. I own a Smith & Wesson 617 because of the Ruger Mark III.
Yeah. So I've got a Mark II, which has some issues with reassembly. Disassembly is easy. Reassembly is where the problem occurs if you're not careful. The Mark III had the magazine safety, and it also had the loaded chamber indicator, which doesn't enter into this story, but it caused other issues. Part of the process of reassembling a Ruger Mark pistol prior to the 4 involves pulling the trigger.
Oh.
And the gun has a magazine safety. Other elements of the disassembly and reassembly require the magazine to be out of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
So with a Ruger Mark III, you are putting the magazine in, pulling the magazine out, putting the magazine in, pulling the magazine out.
Yeah, which and like Weer'd, my 22 plinking pistols are a Browning Buckmark and a Beretta Neos, which the disassembly for cleaning is why just lock the slide back. And
yeah, my most common 22 plinking pistol is Smith & Wesson M&P 22 compact, which comes apart like any other M&P basically.
Yeah,
I actually you reminded me of my Colt 1908 vest pocket little 25.
Oh, yeah.
That thing has it's of the years that had the magazine disconnection. I believe not all of them do.
No, it was after 1920 something, I believe.
Yeah, but so yeah, to disassemble the gun, step 1, you need to clear it for safety reasons. So you're taking out the magazine and opening the slide. But then before you rotate the barrel to allow the slide to come off the frame, you need to make sure to reinsert the magazine. You need to reinsert the magazine with the chamber closed. This could in fact be a loaded magazine if that's all you had available, but I would highly not recommend that. And then pull the trigger and drop the striker, and then you can
remove the magazine.
Yes, then remove the magazine again, and then you're able to retract the barrel to to get the gun off, because otherwise I did make that mistake once, and the striker is just sitting there on the sear, just ready to launch itself into creation. And it
is a hairspring mousetrap.
Yes.
At that point, because if you jostle it just a little too much, you're ordering parts.
Yep. So safety features.
Ask me how to know.
Yeah, safety features that make things less safe make me grumpy.
Hey, most people I know who have a vintage Browning high power, one of the first things they did when they got it was remove the magazine safety.
Yep. It also greatly
also improves the trigger pull.
Yeah, also improves the trigger pull. Yep.
Yep.
And the Ruger, the Ruger SR series, those ones specifically said in the disassembly magazine, please remember to return the magazine disconnect safety into the gun. Otherwise, the gun will be capable of firing with the magazine removed.
Do not put this concentrated wine mixture in a bottle with this much water and put it in the back of the cabinet for 21 days.
Correct.
Yeah.
I love those kind of instructions.
Yep. But do you know who I don't find aggravating?
Our listeners.
Our listeners. Thanks to each and every one of our listeners. We appreciate every single one of you. We're really glad that you listened to this show. We hope you enjoyed it. But we have to give some extra special thanks to our supporters on Patreon. So we go to Patreon, go to patreon.com. So Assorted Calibers podcast to sign up. Patrons get an early release of the podcast, plus bonus content like the hilarious ACP blooper reels, the ACP film tracks, and the ACP mag dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends both online and off. You can get more from Erin at Linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Erin Paulette, all one word.
You can get more from me at my blog, which is weerdworld.com. That's weerdworld.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network. Oddball, where can people find you?
I have a blog at gunscarstech.com, and I can also be heard often on Handgun Radio, and I am also lurking over on the Assorted Calibers podcast Facebook group and the Handgun Radio Facebook group.
David, where can people find you?
Digging a tunnel in Brooklyn.
Yeah!
But primarily, I am here. I'm on Handgun Radio when I can. I am a contributor to Blue Collar Prepping at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. I also lurk on the Handgun Radio and ACP Facebook pages, and as a published author, books with my stories can be found on Amazon under Brenna Bach and David Bach.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music. I am intensely watching the court rulings on the DC mag ban because I live in Massachusetts where mag bans are there. Oddball and David, they're not so concerned because they live in free America. The laws we live under are assorted, and so is our podcast.
I wouldn't say that we're not concerned. We are just less affected. Because I still have plenty of friends and family who live behind the Iron Curtain of New York.
Yeah, no, that is true. And gun rights are for all of us. So,
yeah. Except that guy.
Except for that guy.
He knows who he is. He knows what he's done.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.